This video is sponsored by Tape It, the iPhone recording app made for musicians by musicians.
Oh no, because I don't take any.
No drugs at all?
Mm-mm.
And yet you sing about them.
I'm high on life.
Maybe you're a born searcher, someone who's always wanted something more, or another betrayed transformer, feeling like you want to push through that other door. Or maybe you're just dealing with something that you can't express. When you haven't got a pen in hand, there's other ways to try and find some sense. Or just another Titan tuning fork who uses their heightened sensitivity for good, but needs a kind of leveler when they're told that they really should. From the outside there's a pattern that might be useful in some way, but as people ourselves we know that each inside track is truly different, a brain built just like ours over thousands of days.
I was in a little town in Alaska. It wasn't the end of the world, but you can see it from there. And it was like all of a sudden I thought, I could drink. It's also that same thought you have if you look off a large building and go, I can fly.
To be honest, I've ummed and ahed about making this video, but in the end I've decided to, because I think it is interesting, and I think that some people who watch these videos will find it interesting, thought-provoking, and perhaps even relevant to their own experience too.
But with like the drugs, it really was like a soundproof space.
The centre of this video is going to be looking at interviews and stories of the artists and creatives that I want to explore this topic through today. But at the end, I am going to take a go at trying to balance up some of the ideas here, offer a bit of my own experience, and also bring in some of the words from Patti Smith that I thought were interesting on this topic too. Please also, if you have your own thoughts or background with this stuff, feel free to let us know below if you'd like. And finally, before we start, you might notice in this video, and for topics like this, the kind of heavier topics, sometimes I cut the interview segments a little bit longer. My intention here is to try to give the mic fully to other voices as much as possible, and remove the cuts, remove my own voice as much as possible from the text, so that you can just, hear those other voices intact.
He tortures himself over his relationship with his child, in that, he's not sure he's being a good dad, and he so desperately wants to be a good dad. And yet, he has this huge life that all of us look at and say, I would be happy if I had that life. And you realize that that life is disconnected from whether or not, you're going to be happy, because that's the relationship between you and you, and it has nothing to do with the externalities that are swirling around that guy or any of us.
So I'll be completely open here and say that I did have some trouble getting some sponsors to sign up to be on this video and support this heavier material that I like to get into. But when I sent over to Tape It to see if they might be on board, the response there was greatly supported, and they reflected back my own approach here of wanting to support artists and creatives in a real way, and just create things that over time are going to help some artists and creatives move forward more successfully in their journey. The Tape It product is an iPhone recording app made for musicians by musicians. As a musician, but also a writer who takes a lot of audio notes, the voice recording app on my phone is probably in the top 5 things I'm looking to do when I reach for it. And Tape It are improving the functionality of that process in all kinds of ways, allowing the user to categorize their recordings, get better quality results in general, record straight from the lock screen easily, and collaborate in a far more effective way. As I've said before, this is the first company that when I saw their product, I reached out to them directly, because I really do think that they align with this audience perfectly, and that they could add some simple and practical value yeah, a lot of the people who watch these videos. So the link's at the top of the description there if you do want to go check it out. Thanks again to Tape It for being so open to supporting the heavier work that I like to do on this channel. And yeah, with that said, let's jump into that interview material now and get the central part of this video going along.
Just utterly compelling to watch him, a captivating, charismatic personality who had this expansive joy for experiences of all kinds. And irrespective of however successful he became, was really just like one of us, like he was an everyman. And he was much more interested in having a conversation with a random guy on the street than he was about going to some Velvet Rope event.
Yeah.
Anthony Bourdain. A tendency for openness, creativity and self-annihilation.
Yeah, we don't have that.
Yeah, I grew up reading comics. I grew up collecting, seriously. I wanted to be an underground cartoonist until I was about 14, 15 when I realized, my artwork was just not quite good enough. I sold all of it for crack or heroin, at one point. I was out there. I was selling this stuff cheap. And,
how much did you get for your Silver Surfer? Do you remember?
Nothing.
The first one.
Cash money. That's all I really cared about at the time. It was definitely a distress sale.
Wow. How bad was the heroin?
Yeah, pretty bad,
How many years?
Was probably 5 or 6 actually jammed up really bad, and then a lot of years on methadone.
So he had this heroin problem. He kicked heroin. He kicked hard drugs, but he's this extreme personality, and that ism inside of him divorced itself from hardcore substances, but remained active and would latch on to anything and everything that could kind of take him out of whatever emotional disaffectation he was experiencing. And that extremism made him this larger than life personality. But so it was in many ways his strength and what endeared all of us to him so profoundly, but also ultimately, paved the way for his demise.
What do you need to know about Tokyo? Deep, deep waters. First time I came here, it was a transformative experience. It was powerful and violent experience. It was as if it was just like taking acid for the first time, meaning, what do I do now? I see the whole world in a different way. A window opens up into a whole new thing. And you think, what does this mean? What do I have left to say? What do I do now?
But you see over the course of this documentary how he latches on to certain, not just substances, but people, experiences. Like he goes from, being just the guy who just smokes like crazy to being an insane jiu-jitsu practitioner. And that becomes his obsession, a healthier obsession, of course, than some of his other ones. Travel experiences that obviously underscore, why those television shows that he did, impacted so many people.
I want to go back to the stuff you've drank on the show. Mm-hmm. I just saw the Ethiopian episode, and I was trying to write down everything that was in that one drink. What was it? It was wine. It was
wine. I don't know, with gin or
there was gin in there.
Sprite.
Sprite, yes, some kind of beer.
You're not easy on yourself in this show, are you?
No. As an alcoholic, I talk about, some warning signs, like DUIs in a cul-de-sac, things like that. The idea of, have you been through it to talk about it and see, this is what you go through. Heart surgery, alcoholism. I went to rehab in wine country just to keep my options open. And the idea of, these are things you got to talk about.
Robin Williams. A break from being on all the time.
I remember stopping it on my own because I was about to have a son. And I didn't want to be coked up going, hey, Dad loves you. Here's a little switch. I'm going to throw up on you. You don't want to be like that. And I had to kind of go, but I did it alone. So that was why it was, 20 years without any help. I think I did it because it would actually allow me not to talk. It was like, reverse medication. Why they give Ritalin to hyperactive children is that idea of kind of, oh, okay, I don't have to talk to people. It kind of shuts you down, which is a, word self-medication.
So what would you have done if the songs just hadn't come?
I don't know. I have no idea. But they were waiting to come out. I mean, I was so in love at the time. I was like, and I was with someone that I was in love with. You know what I mean? We were in love. We were together. So and that's like a real drug, isn't it? So when it didn't come together, I was just like, it really hurt. But I needed enough distance from it so that it wasn't like raw emotion anymore, but not enough distance that I'd forget.
Amy Winehouse. On Love and a Search for Something Real.
What makes you happy?
What makes me happy? I feel happy when my boyfriend's happy. I feel happy when I'm playing pool. And I just feel happy when I'm out with all my friends having a good time and everyone's enjoying themselves, really.
What makes you crazy?
Prescription drugs. No, what makes me crazy? Alcohol doesn't do nice things to me. I'm quite a horrible drunk.
But it is your drug of choice.
It is for now. Love is my drug of choice. No, I do like a drink, but it's everything in moderation. I do take it too far sometimes.
I read in the papers you've hit the gym, and that's a new part.
Yeah, I've dropped it now. But so I work a lot. If I don't go for a while, I get a bit loopy. I do go a bit mad. And when I do go a lot, I'm quite calm and settled and so on. I do like going for a run still. But yeah, I did. I'm a very obsessive person, so when I started going to the gym, that was my new obsession. I loved the gym. I'd spring out of bed and go to the gym. Like I'd get on the train and go to the gym. So yeah.
What was it you think you got out of it?
I think the gym is like better than anything. It's the best high there is. I'm sure there's no better drug than going to the gym. Do you know what I mean? Say when we're married, 'cause you're not bitter. He's really cool. He's been in the pipeline for like 3 years even, but he just he's as me. We had numbers for each other 2 weeks ago, and then it all kind of went downhill. I mean, it's one of them things that I'm sure he'd love to do it, I'd love to do it, but it's not, it's not a burning thing burning desire that both of us have to do it. It'd be really nice, really. I mean, he is one of the most eloquent and well put and gentle songwriters, gentle and brutal songwriters.
A freak mythology and a social dichotomy, powerless, no property, no Marvin Gaye anthology.
The drug offences. Because you wrote poetry in prison.
I wrote poetry in prison. I was there, man.
Pete Doherty. The sensitive and solid constitution required for good art and addiction.
The only times I got upset and pulled my sink off or got involved in any kind of fracas was when I couldn't get pen or paper. It was like, give him pen or paper, give him a pen and paper, shut him up. It's madness. They give you drugs, you know what I mean? You get your methadone, you know what I mean? They give you your oranges and your Marmite, you can make a bit of booze, but you can't get pen and paper, you can't get stamps, you can't get library books, you can't get information. Crack cocaine and amphetamine and ketamine, and it was all part of a way of life that I was locked into, you know? It was almost like essential. My brain had convinced me that I was all right, you know? That I was fine, that I wasn't being a terrible father or a terrible son, or that I was killing myself. Because that's what it does, you know? No matter how awful the circumstances, I mean, the addicted mind convinces you that, you know, things are all right. You know?
But yeah, you've lost a lot of friends to addiction as well. Do you ever take yourself there and think it could be you ever? Do you ever worry about that, or do you feel like you're in control of stuff?
Someone will say, I don't want to lose you. Right, I don't want to lose you like that. But there's just something in me that, I don't know, there's just this mad soldier inside me who never cries, who never gets upset, you know? And nothing can kill him.
Basically what happened was, it was very difficult for Peter to arrive at the same time at places and do the same thing that was the MO of the band.
I was on my honeymoon period with crack and heroin, basically, thinking that I could handle everything and do this stuff. And so I've gone around and speak to him, kick the door in, realise he's not there, and then, yeah, I've done, like, you know, behave really stupidly. I've taken some, like, the video and things like that.
Yeah, I've constantly people, you know, telling me your friends are going off the rails, you've got to do something, you've got to sort it out, you've got to look after him, you can't let him do this, you can't let him do that. And, you know, you've seen the man, he's ruling to himself. So, although Peter says he got kicked out of the band, and that was never the case. But, of course, he didn't see it that way. And, but yeah, it was a tough time, and I didn't get any pleasure from doing that whatsoever.
Wow. It's still quite real for you, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was quite heartbreaking, really. We were both romantics and both believed in it all so much, and you know, when it's just fuck all you can do about something. It's just...
I think Lou understood that as Lou Reed, he had a certain sense of power. But at the end of the day, you got to come home, close the door, and live with your creation.
Lou Reed. Transformer.
You said a little while ago that you sing mainly about drugs. Is that right?
Sometimes.
Why do you do this?
Because I think the government's plotting against me.
Why do you say that?
I was sleeping gently, napping when
Lou
the phone.
Originally he wanted to be a writer. When he went to college, he was a writer. He was writing short stories and things in the college magazines and stuff. He actually published his own magazine. And when he had the electroshock treatments, he couldn't remember. He'd read something, he couldn't remember what he read. He'd open a book, he didn't know where he was, because, you know, it takes away your short-term memory just for a while, just for like a week or something. Plus, you have to remember his parents made him do this to cure him of homosexuality. Can you imagine your parents? And they took him there without telling him what was. They said, we're going to go to see a doctor. Okay, we go to come to the doctor, and then we get there, and you're going to have shock treatments then and there. I mean, that's such an incredible betrayal. I think the betrayal of the parents, particularly the mother, was as shocking as the actual treatments themselves, you know, in terms of his whole psyche. Lou particularly was into amphetamines. His mind is full of images from his life, from his experiences, from literature, and so on and so on. He's pouring them out. I don't think amphetamine or any drug shapes those images. These people were working very hard. These are very serious people doing something very serious. They weren't taking drugs just for fun. They were really taking it. We all took drugs to work. That was the whole idea of drugs originally.
Lou Reed is one of my own creative heroes at the moment, to be honest. I've loved Lou Reed songs for most of my life, and I will have always been in a place where I'll be able to recognise some of those words and melodies. But recently, I've been really digging back into it and just enjoying the directness of the lyrics there, and just the kind of the poetics that is found in that directness and the everydayness of you know, the lyrics and how they're presented.
If I could be anything in the world.
So yeah, I wanted to cover Lou Reed in this, but at the end here, he leaves me with a complexity that was always going to be the struggle point in terms of me dealing with this issue in this limited context, and not as a professional of any sort myself.
Because I can't carry when I go through customs. I figure somebody in the audience.
Were you searched by our customs men for drugs?
Oh no, because I don't take any.
No drugs at all? Mm-mm. And yet you sing about them.
I'm high on life.
Do you want people to take drugs themselves? Is this perhaps why you sing about drugs?
Oh yeah, I want them to take drugs.
Why is this?
Because it's better than Monopoly.
Did you see what she did to him? Did you hear what they said?
It's true then, obviously, that some artists do use drugs to access states in which they find something like productivity or certain states that bring forth their creative practice. And yeah, I can't stand here and deny that. Before we get on to the words from Patti Smith, I just wanted to say something of how I understand this myself. I've spoken in previous videos about how the mind of those drawn to engaging in creative pursuits is often a pretty flexible and open one in terms of maybe how they construct their own self-image and how they view the world. And that openness can be really great for our work, but it can also be a vulnerable state in which they get wholly stuck into certain substances or experiences that we've looked at today. I've had my own fair share of panic attacks in the past related to certain activities like we've been speaking about, and I've also had friends, many different people I know, go through similar experiences. To jump into Patti Smith's words on this now, she says, "Myself, I use drugs to work. I never use them to escape. For pleasure I use people. If I'm real depressed, I have some real wonderful friends. I turn to people. Because when you turn to drugs, all you're doing is turning inside anyway." I've been thinking recently quite a lot about isolation and the creative process, probably because it's something that I'm trying to push out of myself as much as possible in terms of one of my targets for next year. To me, Patti's words hit something on the head with that. Firstly, that to my understanding, drug use is quite contextual, and when you're doing something in your room on your own on a Thursday night, feeling paranoid about going to work the next morning, you're a long way from Jimi Hendrix backstage at Woodstock. Isolation and that turning in that Patti Smith talks about is a big place drugs can take us. And I think it relates to the creative practice in some way too. What I mean is, it can be easy to lock yourself in with a creative practice that you love and end up isolating yourself because that relationship is special, and in some ways it can be, for a period of time at least, be wholly fulfilling. When you're alone with your favourite drug, you're not really alone, at least for a bit. And that disconnection from others is probably not good over time and can often end up just being a little bit like hiding from the things that might really bring us growth or some sort of satisfaction. Anyway, look, if you're bored of my voice or the things that I've presented on this issue and you want to have your own say around this, then as I say, this is just one perspective that I've put out and the way that I've brought together this video. So those comments are there if you want to put forward, your own thoughts or experiences around this. And yeah, just make this page more interesting if you'd like. Thanks as always to the paid community who support this work, for everyone who enjoys it. On the screen now, you'll find a video that is related to issues around sobriety and artists and creatives talking about their journeys with recovery and sobriety. So go check that out if you're interested. And yeah, with all that said, peace, and yeah, see you soon.